The Last Word, Episode 14. Momentum, when the truth starts to spread. Intro. In the last episode, we looked at how institutions respond when they're cornered, the vague language, the deflection, the attempts to regain control of the narrative. But something else happens at that stage. Something they don't expect. Something they can't easily stop. The truth starts to spread. This episode is about that momentum, the moment where your fight stops being contained within official letters and begins to ripple outward, reaching people, communities, and other families who recognize their own experiences in your story. Momentum is powerful. And once it starts, it's very hard to stop. Section 1. The story leaves the room. At first, your case exists in a small space. Your home. Your documents. Your correspondence. Your evidence. Your grief. But once you escalate, once you write to the crime commissioner, once you speak publicly, once you connect with others, the story leaves that room. It becomes a topic of conversation, a point of concern, a shared experience, a warning, a catalyst. People begin to talk. People begin to ask questions. People begin to recognize the pattern. And that's when momentum begins. Section 2. Other families start to come forward. When you speak out, something remarkable happens. People who thought they were alone realize they are not. People who felt silence realize they can speak. People who were dismissed realize they were right. You start hearing from families who say, "That happened to us. We were told the same thing. We were pressured too. We were misled as well. We thought it was just us." And suddenly, your story isn't just your story. It's a mirror. A mirror reflecting a pattern of behavior that has been hidden for years. Momentum grows when people recognize themselves in the truth. Section 3. The pattern becomes impossible to ignore. When multiple families describe the same misrepresentations, the same unlawful charges, the same misuse of legal powers, the same emotional harm, the same refusal to investigate, the system can no longer claim it's an isolated incident. Patterns are powerful. Patterns demand explanation. Patterns expose systemic issues. And once a pattern is visible, institutions lose the ability to dismiss cases as misunderstandings or individual errors. Momentum turns isolated stories into evidence. Section 4. The public begins to pay attention. Momentum isn't just about victims coming forward. It's about the public beginning to notice. People start asking, how many families has this happened to? How long has this been going on? Why wasn't this investigated? Who allowed this to continue? What else is being hidden? Public attention is a force institutions fear. Because public attention leads to scrutiny, questions, accountability, pressure, exposure. And exposure is the one thing systems built on silence cannot withstand. Section 5. The system feels the shift. Momentum doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, a shift in tone, a change in behavior, a new level of caution. You notice slower responses, more careful wording, internal reviews being mentioned, departments liaising with each other, signs of internal concern. Institutions behave differently when they sense a story growing. They become defensive. They become cautious. They become reactive. Because momentum means the narrative is no longer theirs to control. Section 6. You realize you're no longer fighting alone. Momentum brings something else, something deeply human. You realize you're not alone. You realize other families understand. Other carers relate. Other victims recognize the pattern. Other people are standing beside you. And that changes everything. Because isolation is the system's greatest weapon. And solidarity is its greatest threat. Momentum turns individual pain into collective strength. Section 7. The beginning of a movement. When stories spread, when patterns emerge, when people connect, when the truth becomes shared. A movement begins. Not a formal movement. Not an organized campaign. But a movement of truth. A movement of people who refuse to be silenced. A movement of families who deserve justice. A movement of carers who know the law. A movement of citizens who demand accountability. Momentum is the seed of change. And once planted, it grows. Closing. In the next episode, I'll take you into the heart of that movement, how collective voices amplify the truth, how patterns become evidence, and how public pressure begins to reshape the landscape of accountability. This is where the story becomes bigger than any one case. This is where the truth becomes undeniable. And this is where the system begins to lose control. Episode 15 is where the movement takes shape.